So here we go. The name of the story is Fence Busters. The year is 1958, and I hope you see the connection of why I'm reading this tonight. Kiko tugged on the short brim of his cap and adjusted the strap of his shoeshine box. Thick black hair clumped around the edges of the cap. An October gust streaked up Larimer Street. He squinted to block dust stirred from the curb. He slipped a baseball card out of his shirt pocket and looked at it for the 100th time. Rival Fence Busters. Willie Mays wore a magnificent smile as he admired Duke Snyder's muscular right arm. His father said it wasn't much of a tip. Kiko disagreed. It might have been his best tip ever. Kiko nodded at the man sprawled in the entrance to El Charrito. A torn and stained overcoat partially covered the wino's dusty pants and shirt. Kiko's mother called the bums desgraciados, but his father said that word was mighty fancy for men who lived on Skid Row. He waited for traffic to thin out and then crossed 21st in the direction of the downtown skyscrapers and construction projects. Mariachi music seeped through the walls of the American Inn. Kiko recognized the tune, something his mother listened to. He thought about going inside, but reconsidered. Too early for dance hall men. He sauntered past the glass panes of Johnny's Market and avoided the wide-eyed stare of the hairless goathead perched next to jars of pickled pig's feet, bags of hojas for tamales, ristras of dark chilies, sacks of beans. Kiko trekked on. He hadn't made any money all afternoon. His father often teased him about the lack of income from his shoe-shining job. You spend hours in Las Calles and you come back with maybe 50 centavos. Less than $1. Como? How does that happen? There are hundreds of men in this city who need clean shoes, businessmen, bankers, abogados. All you got to do is ask, mijo. Just ask. That's how it is in this country. Do something for them and they have the money to pay. A eso le dicen la oportunidad. Opportunity. Kiko had his doubts. He switched the strap again and rubbed his shoulder. His mother would want to massage him with Osha. His arms were tired, his feet hot and grimy, and his cap too tight. He walked for several minutes without realizing where he was going. He ambled to a stop like a car out of gas. The sign over his head announced Cantina, Bar, Cafe, El Chapultepec. He walked in. Two men sat in a booth drinking beer and smoking cigarettes. They stared at the boy. Kiko thought he saw one of the men spit on the floor under their table. Another man leaned on the bar, half on and half off a stool. Kiko took a deep breath. Shoe shine? Only a quarter for the best shine in Denver. The bartender said, "Leave my customers alone." But the man on the stool raised his hand and the bartender shrugged. The man wore a blue wrinkled shirt, a cap that looked like Kiko's except more ragged, and cracked brown loafers, not the signs of a man who cared about the luster of his shoes. Kiko turned to leave. "Why not?" the man said. "You sure, Jack?" the bartender asked. "Yeah, Jimmy, it's all right. The last time I got a shine was in Denver. Seems like a karmic thing to do." He sat on the edge of a booth. Kiko knelt on the floor and opened his box, exposing rags, brushes, and a footrest carved by his father. He took out a tin of shoe wax. Jack lifted his right shoe to the footrest. "What's your name, kid?" Jack asked. "Francisco, but everyone calls me Kiko. Some are calling me Shiner." "Shiner, I like that. It could mean different things. Words are like that, different meanings depending on the talker. So in the end, they don't mean anything at all." "If you say so, mister." "Yeah, if I say so. You from here, Shiner?" "Curtis Street, over a few blocks." "I know where Curtis is. We watched baseball there on Welton years ago. Good crowds back then. Those kids were serious about their ball playing. Whites and Negroes, Mexicans, Indians, all kinds, in team uniforms. That was cool." Kiko wasn't sure if he should respond. "I guess," he said. "I used to live here," Jack said. "We had good and bad times in this town, but they were all good when you think of it." He paused. "What I meant was, You born here in the States? Kiko flinched. Yeah, he said. He'd heard this kind of talk before. His parents spoke to him about being a citizen of the United States, no matter what anyone said. He had every pinche right to be here. That's how his father put it. That's good, Jack said. Something to be proud of, born into the mystery of this country and the dream. Just don't let them get you down. Kiko bent closer to the shoe to rub extra hard on the thin leather. The baseball card slid out of his pocket. What's that? Jack asked. Kiko picked up the card by the tip of a corner and handed it to Jack. He hoped he hadn't smudged it. This is great, Jack said. I saw these two play when they were in New York. You did? In person? Playing baseball? Jack laughed. Sure, kid. I watched Mays and Snyder go head-to-head a couple of times. Mays was like an antelope in the outfield, maybe a jaguar, but I never saw a jaguar, so I can't say for sure. And Snyder, Flatbush royalty, but I was at Yankee Stadium when the Red Sox were in town. Jack returned the card. You ever talk with him? Kiko asked. Shiner, you wouldn't believe. I've been at parties with guys like this. I signed a book for the Duke, and he autographed the ball for me. The kid don't know what you're talking about, Jimmy said. He turned to Kiko. Jack's a writer, kind of famous these days because of his book from last year. There's no living with him now. I remember when he was just another barfly, him and his crazy pals. Bunch of goofs and drunks and so-called poets. Jack put them in his stories, and now he's the toast of the upper crust. Goes to show. Come on, Jimmy, don't you give me a hard time, too. Whatever happened to that friend of yours, Jimmy asked. That car-thieving wild kid. I ain't seen him for years. Neal's in California. That right? Jimmy responded. What's he going to do there he can't do here? Too many people on the coast already. Denver's just right for me. He wants to leave. Always on the move, running from something. But he's stuck now. Why's that? He checked into the Hotel San Quentin. Got a lease for something like 10 years. Christ, who'd he kill? The Pope? Just tried to be free in the land of the free, but now he knows that freedom is a crime and it's sure not free, or something like that. His words cracked with a half laugh, half sigh. He sat back down. He should have never left Denver, Jimmy said. We all leave someday. Neal can't stop leaving. I worry that he's anchored for years. It could kill him. He hesitated. I made the book people pay for a trip to Denver. They got me everywhere else selling books that haven't been written. I thought I owed it to Neal, but now I don't know why I'm here. It's not the same. Kiko replaced the cap on the tin and tossed it into the box. He folded his buffing rag, wiped his hands on another rag, and shut the box. Jack admired his shoes. The cracks were still visible, and the worn heels would never be replaced, but the leather gleamed like clean rain on a new highway. That should impress the Hollywood wolves waiting to tear me apart. He pulled a crunch dollar bill from his pants pocket. Keep the change. Kiko touched his cap with his fingertips. Thanks, mister. Much appreciated. Send that greaser over here. The command came from the booth. I could use a shine, but I ain't paying no buck. Maybe a dime if he's any good. One of the men pointed at his shoes. His drinking partner grunted a laugh. Sorry, mister, it's a quarter for a shine, Kiko said. Just get your brown ass over here. It's a quarter, mister. Shine my shoes and you'll get what you get, which might be a whipping if I don't like the job you do. The friend grunted again. A toothy grin creased his face and his eyes lit up in expectation. You tell him, Leonard. Hey, knock it off, Jimmy said. No call for that. Mind your business. I don't like dirty Mexicans hanging around when I drink my beer, and I really don't like the ones who talk back. Leonard chugged his drink. I had my doubts about this place just from the spick name. I told you that, didn't I, Tom? Tom nodded eagerly. You don't run a respectable joint, Leonard continued. You let in those kind. Get out, Jimmy shouted. The two men stood up. Leonard grabbed Kiko's shoulder and squeezed. The boy tripped over his box and fell. Jack jumped to his feet. You're tough with a kid. Try someone your own size. Leonard threw a punch that missed. Jack grabbed Leonard's shirt collar with his left hand and swung his right fist into Leonard's jaw. Kiko heard a loud crack. Leonard dropped to his knees. Tom moved to jump on Jack, but Jimmy rushed from behind the bar. He held a baseball bat. Scram, take this piece of shit with you, Jimmy said. Tom picked up Leonard by the armpits and pushed him through the door. Leonard cupped his jaw. Tom hollered ugly curses, but the two men did not look back. Jack stacked dollar bills on the bar. Thanks, Jimmy. Next time. Jimmy shook Jack's hand. Anytime. Take care of yourself, Shiner. Like I said, don't let the sons of bitches get you down. Jack left. He climbed into a black automobile and drove away. Kiko waited on the sidewalk. The skyline stretched against the powder blue sky. He thought he could touch the buildings from where he stood. Cars and buses roared through the streets. Construction crews climbed steel skeletons. Cement mixers, trucks, and cranes shrieked into the pure air. Hobos stood in line for hours, dancing to sirens and cop whistles. Stray dogs barked at baseball players in the park on Welton. A color television set turned on for the first time in a large house on the edge of the city. The newsman talked about the upcoming Sputnik first anniversary. Irish songs and Italian mandolins mixed with the smells of fresh tamales and boiled chitlins. Church bells, synagogue chants, and Arapaho drums echoed along the valley highway. Sometimes words don't mean anything at all. Kiko hung the strap on his shoulder, lifted his box, and walked into Denver's heart. I'll have to read Jack's book, he said to Duke and Willie. Thank you.